fabulous with your masks on. All right, we're going to kick off. So I'd like to all to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we're meeting today, the Wiradjuri people, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We usually start these sessions by introducing the team. So we've got Rachel, who always looks after our events. She is a workhorse behind the scenes, and a lot of administration and logistics go into pulling this off. So big round of applause for Rach. I think I've met everyone. I'm Lisa Hasty, and I've been in the business development role and more recently acting in the general manager role. And just a little update there, they've got 4 candidates all going through recruitment interviews at the moment, so we should know news on that soon. I'd like to welcome Albury councillors Alice Clacton and Graeme. Thank you again for being here and your support. And a very special welcome to Anne Larkin, who wears a couple of hats here, Albury City Council, and she's also the chair of YBE, so welcome. We've got 2 very special presenters today. Graeme from GRB Consulting, welcome Graeme, and Alan Barton from IBT, who's got the best mask here. We'd like to also make mention of our sponsors who significantly contribute to what we do, and without them we actually can't operate in the format that we do. So thank you to those, but we're always looking for more, so don't be put off. Our platinum sponsors, Albury City, NBN Co, Digital Marketer B, HIB Insurance Brokers. Our media partners in Ace Radio, 2AY and Regent Cinemas. Our gold sponsors, IBT, thank you Alan, and Texcellence. Silver, Shoreway Employment and Training, Blacklock Lamington, Business Edge Accountants and Harris Lieberman Solicitors. And in bronze, Total HRM, PRD Real Estate, RSM. Thank you to the gentlemen from RSM today, Ross and Alexander, Peter Stewart and Integrity. Oh, but we've still got room for more, so I could keep going. Welcome to all our members that might be their first time here. We've got any of those in the room today. Thank you, Alexander, RSM. Look similar to everyone else with your mask on, but that's okay. I'd like to invite Graeme up now from GRB Consulting. Graeme is an organisational psychologist with over 25 years experience.
Sorry. I have Alan's slides first. So I must add.
Come on up, Alan. Sorry, Graeme.
You have to click really well and say, sorry, Lisa.
That's all right. We'll start with Alan. He's got 23 years experience. That's a bit bizarre.
I'm going to do my presentation.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Graeme.
So you Alan or Graeme?
I'm not. Anyway.
So Alan has over 23 years experience in business management, accounting, sales and marketing, having started his own companies, which he then grew into multi-million-dollar turnover with 20 staff across Australia. Alan's experience when consulting with IBT clients is invaluable. Since turning to consulting, Alan has assisted major sporting organisations, financial lenders, educational providers and a variety of startups on cost reduction strategies for maximising profitability, as well as exploring organisational efficiencies. Alan's here today to talk about big business concepts in regional Australia. Thank you, Alan.
It's me. Hello. Thanks for reading my LinkedIn bio. Yeah, so this is my first presentation to a crowd of people in, I think, 18 months or so. So thanks a lot, COVID. I used to do it all the time, tour around Australia, working in other business chambers, coming in and talking about these types of things. So we switched to webinar mode not that long ago, and then we haven't had to do one for a little while, so bear with me as I go. I'm just saying the game up the back there, I don't think I've even memorised this slideshow yet, so you'll see me go, oh yeah, that's right. Let's get this thing going. Right, so bringing big business concepts to regional Australia. It's a long title, but it's a very simple strategy that we're wanting to take. And it's as simple as I've discovered in working with regional businesses that a lot of them are looking for the way the big end of town do things. How do they do it? What can we do better? I'm here to tell you that some of those organisations that were listed on their major sporting organisations, etc., are just running their stuff off Excel. They're not doing it all that well. We've found that when we're working with regional businesses, just out of necessity, the people that we're working with are a lot more organised, they understand their business a lot more, and the businesses tend to be a lot more agile as well. So that's one of the reasons why IBT, a Sydney-based business, has an office in Albury, and I'm living here running it, and we're going to regional businesses a lot, is because we've seen the opportunity to empower those businesses, especially in the manufacturing, wholesale distribution arena, to take on the big guys, because there's a real opportunity for you guys to do that. So, how many people have their business running like this? Excel spreadsheets for just your inventory. Gabby, put your hand up when you see this. Then they're running Myo, and then they're running another platform for their internet banking, and another one for their CRM, and yet another for their logistics. It's a pretty common scenario that we see. So one of the big things we're bringing out here, when I say out here, I mean everything outside of CBD, really, is enterprise resource planning. So enterprise resource planning is really the act of getting more than one software platform, combining it with another, and having it in a single place. So being able to have a transaction travel all the way from a lead or a quote through to a sales order, through to manufacturing, through to a work order to have it built, or through to a purchase order to deliver it to your customer. And having it in one spot makes a massive difference. So for us, we have a platform called Oracle NetSuite. So Oracle is one of the biggest businesses on the planet in terms of software, and NetSuite is its small to medium business offering that is available. So we do all the development on it, we do the implementation, we do the whole thing. But the main part is that we're able to offer all of these functions for your business in a single spot. And it's also 100% cloud-based. So literally all you need to access it is an internet connection. And this one happens to work on a really crappy internet connection. If you've got a crappy internet connection though, I'm going to refer to Gav again at Lightning IP, have a chat to them. So the fact that it's cloud-based, especially now during the COVID times, makes a massive difference. So in only needing an internet connection, so even if you have to be remote from the office, you can still perform 100% of your tasks. So I'm living proof of that, having moved here 18 months ago. I've stepped foot in our Sydney office twice since then. Haven't missed it in the slightest, and that's because I'm able to be 100% cloud-based. So I can see the exact position of my business at any given time. I can make decisions on how the business is going, and I can also generate my forecasts out of my CRM platform to all from here. Likewise, I travel the countryside, working with all these different types of businesses. So it doesn't matter if I'm in Moree, Albury, that place down outside Melbourne I've got to go to soon. There's one down there, Sunshine Coast, Western Australia. I've been using in Papua New Guinea, which is pretty cool as well. So you have manufacturing in there, inventory. So literally it's a single source of truth for your entire business. Yeah, probably do the audio, please, Rachel. So I've got a wee video that explains that a little more concisely. So up until recently, this type of platform has only really been utilised by the big end of town because of the prohibitive cost. And so we've been able to bundle it now to make it much more affordable for a reasonable sized business.
Australia, we've always been the lucky country. And that's not by accident. rural and regional business sector is now more important than ever, keeping our supermarket shelves full, our economy moving, and people in jobs. Walk us through tough times toward a better future. We can count on agribusiness to do the heavy lifting, to keep Australia and the world going. Australians have always been great inventors. We can't do without our youths, toys, Victor mowers, good bags, Vegemite, Eskies, Wi-Fi, and mechanical shearing clippers. We're always finding new ways to get where we need to be, no matter what stands in our way. The spirit of innovation drives our economy forward. IBT's cloud doesn't make it rain, but it helps. Our software platform allows regional businesses to manage all the different parts of their business in one place. All you need is an internet connection. From any smart device, you can work with your people, suppliers, and customers anytime, anywhere. All the information you need is instantly at your fingertips, in real time, so you can work smarter and faster and make better decisions. Our cloud is being used by businesses just like yours to create a 21st century version of our lucky country, where cloud technology keeps us connected, inspired, and constantly evolving. IBT will help you to live and work where you love to be.
That'll do it for the audio. Yeah. Hopefully you guys might have seen our TV ad running here recently as well. We're about to launch it yet again, thanks to Wing Telly. I'm gonna dance.
Should.
See how we go. Hey! All right, so the businesses that are already taking advantage of this, newest client, Engine Master Australia here in town, their wholesale distribution network of automotive spare parts has a national footprint. They buy internationally, they sell all around Australia. That's a really exciting project we're going to start. We're actually starting it tomorrow. A really great opportunity to show how these sorts of platforms work. So if these guys are out buying or whatever, doesn't matter where they're doing their buying, even if they're a trade show in the US, when that time comes again, they'll be able to place their orders through NetSuite. Riverina Dairy has been one of our clients for 2 years now. So we cover their entire manufacturing process, right from the bill of materials, so all the bits and pieces that go into making the cheese, right down to the packaging and the printing, etc., is all tracked through NetSuite, so we can get accurate costs on each finished goods that go out of there. It's made a big difference to their business in terms of the bottom line and what they've been able to automate. Australian Food and Fibre, they're based in Maureen. I was there a couple of weeks ago. I can highly recommend anyone, if ever get an opportunity to see a cotton gin in action, getting right in the middle there. We've got a tour at AFF. So we're going to do some pretty amazing things, but they are now Australia's largest ginning operation, because they bought Oscott Limited, who was the biggest one, which has also been our client now for 7 years. So similar type operation, they're going to merge into the single entity eventually. Seraphin Machinery, they bring in machinery from overseas, customise it, get it out. We're tracking the process through NetSuite. Tropico is another new one. They're doing tropical fruits on the Sunshine Coast, in the middle of nowhere as well. They're processing the fruits all the way through to puree and juices for other companies, and then shipping it out. So we're tracking the process of the fruit from delivery all the way through to ending up in the bottle. So we know exactly what costs go into each stage. So we can then target those things, make the business more efficient, hopefully save them a lot of money. I say hopefully because it's a brand new project. These guys are operating regionally in the sense that they are in Sydney, New Zealand, UK, US, growing rapidly, started as a kitchen table operation, and now have manufacturers and distribution right around the world. It's a pretty cool story for the Beauty Chef, and they've gotten there in just a few short years as well. So they're using NetSuite again to track the manufacturing process, track accurate costs. These guys went live yesterday, based out of Australia, so they have divisions all around Australia. There's 3 in Sydney, and then 1 in each state, and then they have another 40 odd subsidiaries hanging off it as well, with all these different types of businesses. We're now managing their entire business off a single platform. So they have accurate, up-to-date cash positions on each of the businesses, so they can make decisions very quickly. They're in a takeover and acquisition phase with these things, but the main thing is a transaction happens in WA, it's automatically shown in Sydney, so they have an accurate representation of what's happening over there. So for them, they've changed from mile, they've changed from zero, NetSuite for ages, 0, 0, NetSuite for a while, and they're changing over from 0 as well. So the main thing about these businesses is they've reached a certain stage with a particular platform, and now it's the next logical step up for them. So it doesn't replace those platforms, as it were. It's just you hit a certain growth point, you go to these sorts of platforms. We'll tie this up in a second. I just want to give a couple of shout outs. Albury Business Connect is the first one. Our move to town here has been made a lot easier by you guys. Carrick before and now the current team. As I mentioned before, I was travelling Australia, working in all these different business chambers. Albury stood out as the one to work with. It was the most organised, the most forward-thinking, and the most interaction from their membership as well. So it was a no-brainer to move here. Plus, I'm a Graeme boy anyway, so that made it a lot easier. And then to Lightning IP, so I've mentioned Gav and Dan a few times now. Those guys recommended an office which happens to be right next door to them on 561 Olive Street. It's made a big difference to IBT, being able to interact with people, and going out to visit, and actually having a permanent presence in Albury, as opposed to just working out of my garage in Wodonga. So big thanks for those ones. And any questions? Yes.
Is IBT your company?
It's not. No, it's owned by 4 guys in Sydney who founded it in 1997. They've always been in software that entire time and working with Oracle, but traditionally up until now, it's been the top end of town. So think of all the major brands in Australia: Commonwealth Bank, Reserve Bank, Qantas, and the list goes. Westfield, Channel 9, we have a permanent presence in all those places. We also take what we learn from them and apply it to the small to medium enterprises here. So I don't want to be a business owner again. I'm very happy being paid to do this job, but that's I leverage what I used to do in these things with the guys I work with.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Can I just ask you, most of those examples you have of manufacturing businesses,
yes,
can be used for sort of retail and other type?
Yeah, so here's the fun part, is it can be used for most types of businesses. We, as a business, tend to focus on manufacturing and wholesale distribution, but can certainly be used for retail. It can also now be used for local government as well. Hey, just as a couple of weeks ago, because we now have servers in Australia, whereas before it's been hosted through Europe and the US. So now we are able to offer it to local government as well. So we kind of don't have a limitation on who we can offer it to. Yeah.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks, Alan. I think we're all aware of how much technology is sort of driving the way we do business and the efficiency that it creates. Thanks for that presentation, Alan. I'd now like to invite the real Graeme. And I'm going to read his LinkedIn bio too.
You get up, man.
So Graeme is an organisational psychologist with over 25 years experience as a coach, leadership development and change consultant, and human resources leader. There's a strong interest and focus on positive psychology, including mindfulness, values, strength, branding and purpose and meaning, with specific emphasis on providing practical strategies for their integration into day-to-day activities and behaviour. So I'd like to welcome Graeme, and Graeme's going to speak to us on practical mindfulness for all you busy people.
Thanks everyone, and thanks for popping out here on a cold morning and wearing masks and all those kinds of things that are a little bit uncomfortable that we do, because we want to progress ourselves a little bit, and it's spot on the topic of mindfulness, because when we talk about mindfulness, we actually talk about being in the moment, and mindfulness is about allowing those thoughts that we might have in and around our discomfort to actually come and go. So, presentation. So if we have a look at what mindfulness is, one of the hardest things to do is to find time for it and to remember to do it. And so there's lots of working definitions for mindfulness, and I'll talk a little bit more about what it actually is in a moment. Just for those that aren't, a lot of people have had access and exposure to mindfulness, so it's not new. And what I want to focus on today was just a couple of things that you can do while you're in your busy day and while you're doing what you normally do to be more mindful. So it's being present in the moment and an attitude of openness, curiosity, and acceptance. So being present in the current moment is about when we're just sitting here, we're getting lots of triggers. Right? They might be me talking, they might be it's cold, they might be a whole range of things what the person said before. And the other thing that we can do is we can be triggered by our own chatter. Right? Our minds kind of go off a little bit like a radio that starts up when we wake up and just chatters away in the background. And so we're all familiar with that idea that, you know, you get a thought and then we think about it in mindfulness, we get hooked on that thought and we drag a few more thoughts in. We might think about something in the past, we might think about something in the future. And the human condition mostly is, for a lot of people, and I won't say everyone, some people are hugely positive in how they deal with these thoughts. But for a lot of people, it becomes the what if something goes wrong, or I just made a dana of myself, or I just embarrassed myself, I did the wrong thing. Was that right? That's all going to go to custard down the track. So we're not necessarily in the moment, we're in the past, we're in the future, and it's a particularly human condition, right? You know, despite all of the threats that happen, let's say in, say, gazelle on the Serengeti, right? It's there, a lion attacks, and then within 10 minutes or so, it's back chewing away on the grass, pretty well in the moment, not thinking about, oh God, I just got attacked by a lion, I wonder if there's more there. Oh gosh, I didn't really do what I thought I was going to do, was run into the bushes. I ran down the valley, that's dangerous. But the gazelle isn't doing any of that, right? It doesn't access that kind of past, future thinking. So we do it, and mindfulness is a way for us to notice it and to allow it go. And the best way to think about mindfulness in this way is that it's just cars passing on the street. Thoughts can be just coming and going. If a car passes on the street out there, we don't all run out to have a look at that car and say, what is it? What's it doing? We might hear it's a bit noisy, but it comes and goes. So mindfulness is that whole thing about letting thoughts come and go. And you think, well, that might not be really all that useful, because what I want to do is I want to focus on something. And if that's the case, that's fine. But why mindfulness is useful is because our default position is to be inside our heads in our narrative, it's called, right? So our narrative is the storytelling part of our brain. I'll talk about that. Mindfulness is our direct experience part of the brain. And so when we're being mindful, we're actually paying attention to what's happening now. Our senses, everything that's going on around us in this moment is mindfulness. What you can hear, see, taste, remnants of coffee, those kinds of things. And if you notice yourself going inside your head, mindfulness simply says, oh, distracted, thanks for that thought. Now I'm back to the present moment. Now, if our default is going inside our head, mindfulness is the other thing that we don't do much of in terms of training ourselves to be in the present moment. Now, while you're listening to me, you might think, 2 o'clock meeting, I don't want that person, I don't want to do that. 5 o'clock, great, I've got some drinks after work. Whatever, these thoughts just crash in, even some silly ones. God, I need a haircut. I'm going to Melbourne next week. I wonder if I can go to Melbourne next week. But all these kind of things crash in on you despite there being things happening in the present moment. So it's really interesting that an attitude of openness, we're open to what is happening. In other words, we don't try and stop thoughts. We don't try and stop things. We're not going to be a Zen master in meditation and mindfulness where we actually, the objective is to stop our thoughts coming. We can't do it. Thoughts come and go. Mindfulness isn't about stopping them. It's not about altering them. It's not about doing anything with them other than letting them go like a car passes on the street. So openness to it. Not getting cranky about a thought, not getting hooked on it, not going into that filing cabinet at the back of our head, dragging out 3 files about what we did wrong last week. Or 5 things that we might do next week. That might be positive, but we're still in the future thinking about something. We're not here in the moment. Curiosity is really simply just about being open to what's happening again. Is there more to know in this moment? What can I find out about this moment? Particularly when we talk about habit. Right, the opposite end of the scale for mindfulness is habit. We know it, we've done it, we can do it. Curiosity says we might be able to do something different in this instance, but we're just not open to it. Because either we've judged the situation, we've been there before, oh, I know how this finishes. The reality is, if that pulls us away from being in the moment, it can do some really interesting things when it triggers us, right? When someone starts talking to us. The practical aspect of mindfulness is someone's talking to you and you want to jump in and tell them what you know. Or they're talking to you, you think, oh, there's people over the other side of the room, oh, they're having more fun than me. It's just not being present in that moment. So being able to disconnect with that internal narrative and being able to be in that moment where you are, be happy with that moment is really important. And acceptance. Acceptance is that thing where you are going to accept you're going to have difficult feelings, difficult thoughts. You're going to think about things that can go wrong in the future. You're going to think about things that maybe go right in the future. But whatever it is dragging you into the past or the future, it's about just accepting that that's there once again, letting it pass. So mindfulness now is a part of a very strong evidence-based psychological therapy called ACT therapy. Has anyone heard of ACT therapy? Acceptance and commitment therapy, or acceptance and commitment training. It's promoted in Australia by a guy called Russ Harris. And this acceptance and commitment therapy is built around the idea of mindfulness. Did anyone watch the guy yesterday on the ABC, Ash Barty's mindfulness coach? So Ash Barty's got a mindfulness coach. The Richmond Football Club have got mindfulness coaches. And everyone's jumping into it. So the kind of the warning about mindfulness, I suppose, is that mindfulness doesn't help you relax. It might be a precursor to relaxing. Mindfulness doesn't in fact help you sleep. It might be a precursor to helping you sleep. Mindfulness doesn't help necessarily immediately your performance, despite having a mindfulness coach. The mindfulness coach hooks it up with something else. And as in ACT, the therapy, mindfulness is a part of a very strong evidence-based therapy for dealing with anxiety and depression. And so it really is kind of that thing that mindfulness is a bit like walking. It gets you somewhere, it enables you to run and jump, but it's the background. Oh, I'm walking, that's great, what can I do with that? And so mindfulness is a little bit like that. And so what mindfulness does at the base level is helps you focus. And so by helping you focus, it simply reads what you practice, you get good at. So if you practice mindfulness, you're going to get better at focusing. You're actually going to get better at something that you want to get better at, if that's what you want to do. You're going to be less triggered by things that come into your head randomly, such as what might be happening now while I'm talking to you. And so knowing that that's going to happen and knowing how to let those thoughts come and go, like those cars passing on the street, is really a powerful part of developing a skill. So mindfulness is developing a skill in focus and allowing you to notice triggers that would otherwise pull you in a particular direction, cause you to think about other stuff, cause feelings to come. I mean, humans are great. We can think of something and then feel it. We can evoke a feeling by thinking about something that might happen or has happened. It doesn't have to be in front of us, it's inside our head. And so it's a great ability to be able to do that, to access that. It helps us with empathy and a whole range of things. But there's occasions when it just doesn't work very well for us. And that's a part of how we work with ACT and build ACT therapy and those kinds of things for those people who do it. So let's jump into the, we're going to do a little mindfulness exercise, of course, it's got to be practical. So mindfulness, let's have a little chat. I've just covered some of this. The easiest way to think of mindfulness is your, am I okay? Sorry. You're noticing your experience of the world in the present moment, right? So it's just right now, right here, you're listening to me and that's it. There's thoughts coming and going, but you're not attending to them, you're letting them come and go. If you practice mindfulness, then you're able to do that more readily. What you practice, you get good at. If you practice going inside your head, you're going to get really good at that. Most of us are. And it's called our default. Our default is our narrative brain circuit. So we can do mindfulness through our senses or noticing ourselves, such as our breath. So breath is something most of you might have heard about meditation. Focus on your breath. That's fine. You're noticing something that's happening now. Or you can do it with your senses, and we're going to do that in a moment. Mindfulness doesn't mean shutting off those random thoughts. They're there. You can't stop them. You can head off to the mountains in India and spend the next 20 years, and you might get there, right? If that's your goal. The objective here isn't to do that. It generally isn't with mindfulness. It's noticing thoughts and feelings, returning your attention to the present moment. And it's acceptance. You're not trying to change those thoughts. You're not trying to change those feelings in any way. You just want to be present. It's about simply letting all your thoughts and feelings come as they are. So let's do an exercise. I talked about the senses, working with your senses. So what I want to do is just, if you could, just exhale, empty your lungs, just sit in the chair nicely, feet flat on the ground, and you don't have to close your eyes for this. In fact, don't close your eyes for this. This is not a closing your eyes exercise. So I just want you to exhale, get all the air out of your lungs, push it right out, and then just allow your lungs to fill naturally. Don't gulp a big breath in. And then just repeat that. Push all the air out of your lungs. Just notice it all going as much as you can. And then allow your lungs to fill well from naturally. Now, I just want you to look around and notice 5 things. You don't have to look around. You might be noticing your fingers. You might notice the blue veins on the back of your hand. But pick 5 things out. What are 5 things that you can notice now?
Fed up with my mask.
Sorry?
Fed up with my mask.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So that's a really good one. So that's a thought. Right, that's coming. We hate our masks. And we can focus on that, and that can get us tangled up in our thoughts. Or we can say, there I am, I've had a thought, I hate my mask. Let it go. Let it move on. See if you can hear 4 things then. Listen to me, you can hear 4 things. One of them is me just talking. It might be you breathing, someone else breathing. Yeah. And then feel three things. Feel three things that you felt your arms in your shirt, your sitting on your legs on the chair, on the back of you. Just feel three things. Smell two things. What can you smell?
What a lot of them are.
If you don't get them, and then taste one thing. Just for the so you can, and that's a mindfulness exercise, right? That's mindfulness bringing your senses to the actual task of allowing you to access your direct experience. And it's as simple as that. If you're sitting at your desk, you can grab those 2 breaths, exhale, allow your lungs, just push your chair back at work, exhale, allow yourself to inhale naturally, exhale again, allow yourself to your breath, your lungs to fill, and then do that exercise, all of your 5 senses. Doesn't matter how many you get, but sit in a familiar spot and do that, and just notice what you've seen that you've never seen in that chair. I do it at home and find, oh, conflict, that wasn't like. Notice things, bring your senses into the room for a moment. Now, why do we work on senses and this idea that, is it on that slide? The focus on our senses and noticing our breath. Why we do that is because it's I've talked about the narratives going inside your head and how we practice that, we get really good at that. The other aspect of the mind is our direct experience. And we know from all of the studies that have now been done into mindfulness, there's quite a lot of evidence-based studies emerging, is that our brain operates on a couple of circuits. Our direct experience circuit is a different circuit to our narrative circuit. So mindfulness works by engaging your direct experience circuit, and it's like the fader on a speaker, left and right channel. Your direct experience, if you turn up your direct experience, you're fading away your narrative. It doesn't stop intrusive thoughts, but it turns up your brain's functioning, your circuit on your direct experience. The more you do, the more your direct experience circuit strengthens. And I keep saying, what you practice, you get good at. Why do we do muscle memory tasks? Why do we play scales in piano? Why do we do dance exercises? We do these little micro skills because we know we're going to use them. And we know that with under pressure, we're going to revert to habit. If we've done some exercise in terms of mindfulness, our ability not to be triggered by that person across the room or that person across the boardroom who says, I think what you've said is a lot of data. I don't believe you, you're lying. That triggering is something that isn't helpful for us. Because that triggers fight and flight, and that does a whole range of things to us that stops us thinking, right? We know we're going into a different world. And so mindfulness is about, okay, if you can practice letting go of that hook, you're going to be much better at responding in a whole lot of different areas of life. So this is really a practical use for it, is reducing the effect of triggers on our lives. Now, mindfulness can give you a kind of a moment where you have a break in the madness of what you're doing, and that's great because you're outside your head, you're not planning, you're not future past, you're just in this moment. So thinking about that during the day can be really useful. We can also have mindful behaviour. How long have I got? Oh, it's time. Yeah. So we've got mindful behaviour. We can walk mindfully. Right? If you're going somewhere, you can walk and notice your feet on the ground. Notice your arms moving. Notice the sounds, the sights. You're walking somewhere that's familiar, so you've done it all before, you know everything. Well, you probably don't. Being mindful is being open to a new experience and not being in your head rushing somewhere when you can actually be going to somewhere mindfully. And you've got to get there anyway, I'm not taking any time out of your day suggesting you be a little bit more mindful. And so just doing that is a really simple thing to do. Eating and drinking is another thing, really easy to do because you've got to do it and you're going to do it. So if you look at someone who drinks wine and is a wine connoisseur, they're being hugely mindful. Mindfulness is about noticing what's happening in terms of the wine, the taste, looking at wine drinking or wine tasting is hugely mindful. But we can have our break at work and we can have something to eat or drink and we can scoff it down and get into it and we can do our social media, we can do everything else we've got to do and we can just go through our habitual break when we could have been doing something a little bit more mindful. Next time you have a drink, have a coffee, have a cold drink, whatever, just have a drink and notice what happens to that liquid. Notice how far down into your stomach you can feel it. You might surprise yourself. Get a glass of cold water and watch it. Watch it go down your throat into your stomach. When you're having your lunch, notice the texture. Notice the sound. Notice the sight. Notice the taste more. Do those things that you're doing now, but do them in a mindful way. So I'll finish on this. We can be involved in mindful practice or meditation. That's great. If you're doing that, fine, fantastic. And it's a bit like you're going to the gym. You've got a program, you're doing something regularly. But the other side of mindfulness is just being mindful during your day, which is what I'm talking about. And if I use the gym analogy, it's similar. Sometimes we just want to get a little bit fitter and it's going to be useful maybe to walk to work once or twice a week. So in the same vein as any exercise is good for you, you don't have to have a gym program. The same applies to mindfulness and the evidence shows us that any mindfulness is good for you. So you don't need to have a mindfulness half an hour in the morning at 6:30 sitting under a pyramid or whatever. It's like a cushion. You can actually be mindful as your day goes. The only difficulty is remembering to do it and having a few tools just in the back of your mind about if I'm walking somewhere, can I be mindful? I'm sitting at the desk eating, can I be mindful? I'm in a meeting, well, that's a great opportunity to be mindful. Okay, so I'm going to start to pay attention. I'm just going to start to be in this moment. So thank you.
Any questions for Graeme?
I've been a recipient of this sort of training before, so it's something I highly recommend people participate in. It changed how I was able to manage the day-to-day of corporate life, and right down to conflict resolution, even that triggering that you're talking about, receiving that training and knowing that what's being directed at you isn't necessarily directed at you, the protection, etc. Yeah, sorry.
Does anyone else?
I didn't think about working and mindfulness, but I do that more.
Yes, yeah.
You know, you have a bad day at work, walking and lying, deep breathing and lying on whatever.
Yeah, we can do walking with our music on and all sorts of distractions. But if you just there's so much to be heard, seen, smelled. If you're just walking and noticing what's happening, that is being mindful. That's practice. And you're doing it anyway. Thank you. Yeah.
But I need to do it at work.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to ask me? We thought it would be really important to have Graeme here to touch on this, and I know some of you have experience with mindfulness in your own lives. But we ran a survey last year of how many businesses was it, right? Almost 400. And we found that 47% of the respondents said that they didn't feel in control of their mental health. So this is an area that you'll hear us talking more about it or with Business Connect and a follow-up project in the Better Place project, which is a mental wellbeing initiative for local businesses. So thank you, Graeme. I'm not sure that I should have taken away that it's okay to drink more wine because I'm being mindful. But if that's a takeaway, that's a takeaway. Finally, just some further announcements of upcoming events, pending if restrictions change. But next week, businesswomen and Young Business Edge are putting together a session on the art of negotiation with 4 panellists, I believe. Is that right? 3, and that's going to be Thursday, the 22nd from 6 p.m. at the Bended Elbow at this stage. So if that sounds of interest to you or anyone in your teams or people you work with, let us know. Business After Hours is hosted by Digital Marketer B, one of our sponsors, and that will be at Soden's Hotel on Wednesday, July 28th from 5:30. Rach will send out registration links in the email along with the slides from today's presentations. But if there's no other questions, that's it for today. Thanks for coming.